Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Swish City. In today's episode, we're going to be diving in and talking about the team that is nobody is talking about in this Eastern Conference, and a team that the NBA is neglecting in my eyes. Obviously, because they're a small market team, but not only because of that, but they have one of the most young integral cores in the NBA, and honestly, a roster that could have utilized a shakeup, but didn't go through it and stuck with their plan and are changing the course of the Eastern Conference. It is the undefeated team, as you guys can tell from the title, from the thumbnail. You guys know who I'm discussing and talking about. We're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, baby, and they have been the NBA's forgotten team this season. Like I mentioned, they are sitting atop the Eastern Conference with the only undefeated record in the NBA at 11-0. And can you tell me where on any national media site can you see any Cavs exposure? Let me know down below in the comment section. Unless you're in Cleveland, unless you're from the area, can you let me know on ESPN or anywhere where they're talking about Donovan Mitchell or Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert, anywhere on mass media? Can you tell me where they're talking about these players? They are not. They're talking about other superstars like Giannis Antetokounmpo or LeBron James or Anthony Davis or Anthony Edwards or whoever they would like to talk about. But the Cleveland Cavaliers have been that main story of the NBA in that Eastern Conference, and ultimately are proving a lot of people wrong, including myself, who were not believing in how this team could fit. And you got to give them kudos and you got to give them credit. So we're going to dive in. We're going to look at what this team has been doing and how successful they truly have been with this roster in this season, why they could really change the fold for their progression and future plans. So, like I said, the Cavaliers are number one in the Eastern Conference, and this Eastern Conference is very, very weak at the moment. There are only two teams that are above 500, and that is obviously the Celtics and the Cavaliers. But if you want to look at the rest of this Eastern Conference, basically every team is dealing with injuries. The Pacers dealing with injuries with starters in Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Nesmith. The Magic, obviously, their star player in Paolo Banchero is out. The Knicks dealing with some injuries as well, dealing with Mitchell Robinson and dealing with some depth issues. The Heat had Jimmy Butler out for a little bit. The Bucks and the Sixers, we obviously know the Bucks have no Chris Middleton. The Sixers have had no Joel Embiid. They had Paul George for a little bit. Now no Tyrese Maxey. So the Cavaliers and the Celtics have been these two front runners, these kind of two teams to talk about. And realistically, there's only been one team to talk about that's been dominant in the East, and that's the Celtics, as they've been talked about as the defending champs and stuff like that. But most of this talk in the East has been revolving around those bottom teams, like I mentioned, the Bucks, the Sixers. Can they turn around? How are they looking? And not much has been talked about this Cavs team, which I think deserves a lot of shine, as they've proven not only can they be a competent team in the Western Conference, but they have the tools to do so. So let's dive in and let's look at some key players that have been really, really showing out for this Cavaliers team. And like I mentioned, let's look at the shooting splits for this squad to kind of look at this. And Lord have mercy, ladies and gentlemen, the Cavaliers, the reason why they're so successful is they are shooting lights out as a team. This Cavaliers team is playing perfection on the offensive side. And if we want to look at their 3 point percentage, excuse me, they are taking 30 attempts per game from 3 point range, and they're making around 15 of them, shooting 42% as a team from 3 point range. Usually, if a player is shooting 50, 40, 90 from in the NBA, if they're shooting 40% as a play as a whole from 3 point range, that is a key. But as a team, you are shooting 40% from a whole from as a 3 point range. That just goes to show you that this team is playing bona fide successful basketball, and the cohesion with all their players is truly working. If we want to look at their main star, obviously Donovan Mitchell, he's been that guy that has really taken over, and we've seen him lead dominant regular season teams with the Utah Jazz and now with this Cleveland Cavaliers team. But Donovan Mitchell might not be that number one A superstar that could realistically lead a team to a championship, but he has proven that he can be that all offensive scorer, that all offensive motor, and can be that guy that potentially in a couple years could be that future stone building around with the Cavs. He's been absolutely phenomenal, not only on the offensive side, but the defensive side, and he's been a really, really effective scorer and playmaker, really taking the lead with this team. Obviously, the other guard as well, and Darius Garland averaging around 20 points, has been very, very successful in bouncing back and really setting up this offense. And having both of these point guards really, really just facilitate and be so successful from the 3 point range has shown the gracious in the Cavaliers' success. But not only have their guards looked good, but their big men have also been absolutely fantastic. And one of them being Evan Mobley, a player who's been discussed pretty weirdly throughout his NBA career. A player who's obviously been with another center his whole entire NBA lifetime, playing alongside Jared Allen. So he's never been the true big man in that front court, hasn't been able to truly unlock how he could play as that center, but playing as a power forward has really grown as a player, has developed more of a shot. And as he coming into the league, he was obviously a very, very skilled offensive big coming from USC, pretty solid defensively as well. He has polished both sides of those games where he's been able to stretch and be an effective 3 point shooter from that power forward position, working perfectly alongside a player in Jared Allen. But not only just that, but he's also got that rim protection down pat, and he can be in competitions for these defensive player of the years that players that people want to see Evan Mobley be competing in. And Mobley, obviously, I think would shine best if he was in the front court by himself, as he would have all that, pressure to take kind of care of and control his dominance. But playing alongside a player in Jared Allen who is still going to rim protect and still control the paint is key, because then it allows Mobley to be more expressive on the offensive side of the floor and really take over and be that scorer in the big man ring down low, and kind of takes and alleviates some of the pain from some of those guards, which is key. And we've really seen Mobley grow as that scorer this season and really transcend to one of the better bigs in the NBA. And like I said, if he was in a system where it was just him, I truly think he would be one of the best bigs in our league. But not only have the Cleveland Cavaliers been absolutely fantastic with how they've looked as a roster, but also you have to give credit to their coaching staff. And the Cavaliers went and made a change this season, went out and firing JB Bickerstaff, a coach that has led them to the playoffs the last 2 times, but unfortunately has led them to some disappointing playoff exits. The 2 years previous, losing in the first round, and then in the second round, and then the last year, making it out of the first round by Donovan Mitchell's case, really putting the team on the back, but then in the second round, getting manhandled by the Celtics. So the Cavs went in and made a coaching change, bringing in an offensive style head coach and Kenny Atkinson. And Atkinson has really been able to awaken this team, really utilizing players like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to their best ability, but also awakening players like Caris LeVert, Ty Jerome, and even Evan Mobley out of their strengths on the offensive side. And Atkinson, who was obviously shelled by the Nets very, very disgraciously with the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving bringing in and wanting to hire Steve Nash. Very, very wrongful for that to happen. And I'm loving that Atkinson is getting another chance in a successful system with the Cavs. And this is just another beautiful thing to see within the basketball reigns, is seeing Kenny Atkinson, a coach who is absolutely disrespected and lost his job for absolutely no reason, getting that gracious good karma of being hired to a good, pretty solid Cavs team, and then turning around and being one of those bright spots for that future. I'm really loving that for Kenny Atkinson. But like I mentioned, not only have some of these star players for the Cavs team really stepped up, but some of these role players have truly stepped up as well. And one of those being Caris LeVert, who has been a lights out shooter for this Cavs team, specifically with another player and scorer, Max Strus, who's been out since the beginning of the season dealing with an injury. Caris LeVert has really had to step up to be that small forward and take over. And with Isaac Okoro not having the greatest season and dealing with, the long, long contract terms and getting back to the Cavaliers throughout a long free agency, it was kind of seeming that he did not really want to come back, and that it wasn't really the best fit, and they were just bringing him back because they needed to have a roster spot, and they couldn't get off of him. But for LeVert, it's basically he needed to step up and deliver if Okoro wasn't going to be that guy, and obviously if Strus is going to be hurt, he needs to be that extra scorer, and we can tell you that Caris LeVert, ladies and gentlemen, has been doing that. If you want to look at Caris LeVert's stats here, he is shooting 57% from the field, 47% from 3 point range, and 65% from 3 point range just at the start of the season. That is absolutely ridiculous from a role player in Caris LeVert, and he is just going and just adding to this offense. But not only is he doing it, but the other player in Ty Jerome is doing it also. A young guard on this Cavs team who's coming in and kind of replacing that Ricky Rubio-esque type role, and that was something that is needed from this Cleveland Cavaliers team, as they really didn't have a backup point guard once Ricky Rubio obviously went and retired. And obviously, he had to retire for some personal issues, which is clear as day, and we respect Ricky Rubio for that. But unfortunately for the Cavs, that left him with an open roster spot, left him with a little bit of a hole in their point guard position. And Jerome has really taken over that point guard position as a lethal scorer, lethal playmaker, and guy that can really set up this offense at that point guard position. I thought that was a main point of focus that the Cavs needed to address. I thought they could have went and got a player like Markelle Fultz, but they did not. They stuck with their roots. They believed in a player that they had in their system in Ty Jerome, who was pretty solid on the Warriors as well, but now in the Cavaliers has really opened himself a real role with this team, and I think has set himself up as this backup point guard for this team's future and could be a really key part for this Cavs bench in these next coming seasons, if not this season. But like I said, this Cleveland Cavaliers team has had very little talk about it. Not many people have mentioned this team, and ultimately that has been a fault because they are really talented, really skilled, led by a top tier head coach, have two very dominant bigs, two very good guards, some role players that are really stepping up, and they should be feared in this Eastern Conference. I know the Eastern Conference is beaten up. I know it is weekend. This Cavs team is not going to be, 15, 17 and 0, looking absolutely crazy at some points. They will come back down to earth once some of these teams kind of get healthier, get more into swing of things, get more comfortable, build more chemistry. But I ultimately do think that this Cavs team will be a top team in this Eastern Conference, as we've seen with the Bucks and the Sixers getting out to some slow starts. And I do think that that is going to be key for the Cavs in the playoffs, because if they get a pretty solid seed, a top 3 seed, and get some home court advantage, they might be able to get the best of a team like Philly or Milwaukee just because they have that home advantage, which could be key for them. But let me know what you think down below in the Cavaliers about the Cavaliers. Like I said, I was a person coming into this season, wasn't that high on this Cavaliers team. I had them 7th in the Eastern Conference. I thought they'd have to make some changes. I thought Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, one of them would have to be traded, but ultimately they're seeming to figure it out to work. Kenny Atkinson has been doing that role, and the Cavs are looking like a top dog in the East. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your love and support, so it's been really appreciative. Once again, I'm Bruce Velez. Have a great rest of your day, and go basketball. Peace out, everyone.